Hello and welcome to the Wise Way. This morning I am joined by oh my goodness, my brain. Caz Hitchcock. I couldn't even speak this morning. That is my dyspraxic mouth not working. Anyway, Caz has joined me to discuss everything about chronic pain. But as usual, I am really with it this morning. So as usual, the show is not about me. It is about my guest, and I can't speak this morning. So Caz, please introduce yourself.
Good morning. I'm not sure I'm going to fare any better, but I will attempt it. Yes, I'm Caz, and I'm creator of Gravity Technique and a chronic joint pain specialist. But my main campaign in life is to change the really toxic narrative around the fact that just putting up with pain and taking painkillers and, pain is a part of getting older. I would like to change that, because actually we're a highly intelligent, self-healing organism, and if we give our bodies the opportunity to be that, then we can live and move fluidly and easily.
And that's why I asked you on, because something we just touched on it very briefly in the little studio before we went live, but I've had a back injury which came in when I was 39. So I had 2 prolapse discs within really short space of time. And I ended up down the route, like everybody, popping painkillers, waiting to see if I needed an operation, but the prolapses are too small. And actually what got me moving, what got me back again was actually, this sounds awful, but going cold turkey on painkillers, half-lives, and 72 hours later, that was tough. And then I started exercising again. So I wondered if you could talk about the alternative route to the painkiller, because, it was horrific.
Yeah, the issue that we've got is that the general practices that most of us have available to us through the NHS, which is a wonderful thing, but because of their time constraints and because of their limitations, really all we get access to are sticking plaster approaches. So painkillers, steroid injections, things to make the pain go away, and we don't get intelligent about asking questions around the why. So pain is not something that we want to make go away. It's a call from your body for your attention. It needs you to change something. And the more pain you're in, the more shouty your body's becoming to change certain situations and certain daily activities that we're doing. It's interesting, low back pain is something that I deal with a lot. It is, I think, 85% now of adults in the Western world will suffer with back pain at one point in their lives or another, which is a really high statistic. And again, we're not looking at why that's happening. We love a stat. There's lots of them being bandied around. But what I want to do with my work is to really get into, looking at why that's happening. Is it just a sedentary lifestyle, or is it something emotional, or is it something, other contributory factors? And the answer to that is that it's never just one thing. It's always, it's a layer upon layer upon layer, and then something finally breaks the camel and off we go into something. But these sticking plaster approaches don't take us towards a solution. And you're really wise in your approach to painkillers, and that it's not sustainable. For me, I only have one kidney, so painkillers are not an option. I can't take most of them. I'm allowed, one random paracetamol every few years, but apart from that, most painkillers are not suitable for me. So from that approach, I kind of got, my hand forced into what I do. But looking at what the root cause is. So with low back, lumbar destabilization, disc prolapses, that sort of stuff tends to be coming out of shoulders and head positioning. So if we've got very, very tight shoulders and our ribs aren't moving appropriately, if something doesn't move, something else has to. When we look at the body as a holistic functioning whole, not just a sum total of individual bits, when it's all joined up together, if something's not moving, something has to overmove. And generally that's where the low spine gets unstable, because other parts of the spine are too stiff. And your brain is running to a very certain set of rules about keeping you alive. you must stay upright. You must stay mobile so that you can get the food, so that you can have the sex, so that you can procreate and take over the world. That's basically, the brain running pattern. And it doesn't matter how much pain you're in, it will satisfy those rules first. So your body is there, your brain is there to keep you safe. It's not there to keep you comfortable, which is quite a hard fact to get our heads around, because we think that, our body should look after us, and, we should naturally be pain-free. Or if we are in pain, why isn't our body sorting it out? But actually, if the brain is satisfied that we are safe and we're mobile, it doesn't really matter how much pain we're in.
That's absolutely fascinating. And the reason it's fascinating is I suffer with child attention. And I get, I'm standing up today. So my husband bought me a gift, which is really sweet of him, and I love him for it. So I get to be standing up more. And since I've been standing up more, walking more, being more active, my back is much more manageable, but there are still days I can't physically get out of bed. And I love that connection with that, the emotional connection. I mean, I know this, but I love the fact that we're talking about how our emotional state affects our physical state.
Yes, we have studies to show this now. There was a study conducted over at the Fascia Research Institute in Munich, where I have some connections there. And they were looking at, and I've seen this myself in my own studio and clinic, was, people will come in with terrible back pain, debilitating back pain. And we get the MRI up and have a look at that, and there was just nothing of note to see. And then other people will come in and say, oh, thought I'd pop in, got a bit of a niggle. You'd look at their scan and it would look like a Jenga. There's been bits all over the place. So actually the correspondence between the pain experienced and the physicality or physical reality, there was some disparity there. So Dr. Robert Schleip got into that, and they looked at, it's an ethical ratty study, by the way, and I'm always appreciative of an ethical ratty study where no ratties were harmed in the pursuit of this study. But what they did do is they put the little rat in a Perspex tube and just left him in the middle of the office. And this is a low-level stress. So it's like our children being told to sit still in class, where today in the UK it's really sunny and we've all got to sit still, and anybody that's got sons is going to know that they're desperate to get outside, boys particularly. But that whole thing of that low level pressure, and what they were testing for was they were just very gently pressing on the rat's low spine over time. And what they found was that sensitivity in the low spine area increased incrementally over time as they continually put these ratties in this stressful state, because obviously they want to be in the dark and they want to be away from humans, and all of the stuff, the people moving around them puts them in a stressed state. And then they started to study this with humans shortly after that, and looking again as that holistic whole. There's a life pie behind this, and the studies really showed that people with high sensitivity in their low spine, where what we would call pain, and for some people debilitating pain, there was a correlation between that and a distinct feelings of lack of support within their life sphere. So not supported in their work, or not supported by their family while they're going through a challenging time. That sort of stuff was flashing up, and it was a recurring theme that came through the study over and over again. It was really interesting to look at, but it answered so many questions for us about why our bodies can be in pain. And it's disheartening, because, and I hear this from my clients a lot, it's really disheartening when you've got this terrible pain, you go to get the scan, you think you're going to see something, and there's nothing there. Or the doctor tells you that there's there's a little bit of degeneration, but there's nothing of note. And it leaves us without the answer or the path forward that we were looking for. We're all looking for a solution to get ourselves out of this pain. Of course we are. And it's disheartening when that happens, for sure.
That's absolutely brilliant, fascinating, and I'll explain why. both times when my back has gone, or the 3 times when my back has really gone. One, I was in a job that I was miserable in, and it just didn't suit my personality, and I was absolutely, oh, it was horrific. And I was dragging my leg. I mean, I looked really, really bad. The other 2 times where it's gone quite badly have been not so, 6 months ago now, but have been when I've been at my lowest as a business owner. And it's been when I've been struggling, going, am I doing the right thing? Should I continue with the business? Should I wrap it up? And people don't realize and you know this, when you're a small business owner, you don't necessarily have a team around you. You do, but you don't. And sometimes you just feel really lonely. And that loneliness, that overwhelm's got to come out somehow. Yes. I just find that, I mean, I don't know if you've experienced that loneliness as a business owner.
Oh, there's an awful lot of self-employed. Massive amounts of alone time. And yes, of course, you have your family who support you and love you. And, shout out to my mum, my biggest cheerleader. She's all over she's the first one that likes my Instagram and, all of those. But nobody really knows the business like you do, and nobody's really, because for most of us, particularly women as business owners, it's not business, it's not work, it's a life passion that we've turned into our career. That makes it very different than just being like a data entry person or somebody that I liked this thing, so I took it in that direction and now I'm a lawyer or something like that. I find particularly with female entrepreneurs, it's something that has affected them in their life deeply or has been part of their own journey. I do this work from my own journey. I had my first surgery when I was 12, my second surgery when I was 20, and my third surgery when I was 22. So I'd already kind of had my hand forced. I was, my mom took me to yoga because I had a congenital kidney issue. So my first surgery left me with an 11-inch scar from my navel to my spine. They severed all my core muscles, but back then you didn't even get 6 sessions of physio. Yes, I'm really old. So when I had this surgery, some 30 years ago now, you didn't get any physio or anything. So they're like, well, thanks for popping in, great to see you. We've saved your life. Bye-bye. And you just get a handshake and that's it. It's all over. And I think with that in mind, then it was down to my family to support me. And it was my mum that actually took me to yoga at 15 years old because I was starting to go lopsided. So, oh, Kirsty, you've frozen. And we're just going to wait for Kirsty to come back. Hello, Jill. I love that I've got my support team here. I have lost the lovely Kirsty, so I'm getting prompted by Jill. What do you want to know? Have you got any questions? Actually, I can come across here and have a look in my LinkedIn. Have you got any questions? Let's have a look. You said it so resonated with you. Let's have a look. Oh, here she is. She's come back. Yes. So if we keep going a little bit about my personal journey, if that's interesting, I'm hoping it's interesting. Yes.
I am so sorry. We had a power cut. No, that I always joke. I am so sorry to leave you stranded there. We had a power cut, and of course, I always say to people, be hardwired when you go live. Well, there you go. There's another thing about why you shouldn't be hardwired. But anyway, let's catch up because we had some comments which unfortunately I have now lost. So I will go to my phone and see where we are with them. Jill has just said, tell us about the feet. So wherever you were, take the floor and I will be quiet now.
Tell us about the feet. Yes, feet are the foundation. Also, what were we were, my mind was off into something.
Well, come on, I did leave you stranded.
It's all right. It's all right. Yes, I was thinking about getting into this work and being passionate about what you do. Because, you know, for me, coming from a yoga background, it was purely in the beginning just to heal myself. Oh, there you are again.
I am.
Yeah, it was just to heal myself in the beginning. And then what I found was so exciting. I then started to yoga anybody that couldn't run fast enough. So if you had the misfortune to sit next to me at a dinner table and tell me that your shoulder was bad, that was it. You got hauled into the lounge, and because I discovered this amazing thing that could help. And then the game changed. When I was about 24, we discovered that I had keloid and hypertrophic scarring. So I generate far too much scar tissue, still generating it now, years after the fact. And I don't have an off switch. So the prognosis was I produce the scar tissue, and every 5 to 7 years, the medical professions I would have surgery to take that out, which involves having all your organs taken out, and they unstick all the tissue and they put all your organs back again. And we were going to go into this cycle. I could see this coming. And a little bit like we were talking earlier about the painkillers, I just decided that this was a bad idea. The question was, how do I support myself well? As a 23, 24-year-old person, I've got a whole life ahead of me. The kidney failed just before I was 20, and I had it removed. And in removing the damaged kidney, I suddenly had a life back again, because when you've got an ailing kidney and it's poisoning you quite poorly all the time, and then sort of miraculously missing an organ, I was much better. So it was that was the question. How do I support myself well post-surgery? And then as I trained to become a teacher, everybody that came had the same question, because they'd all had surgery. I've never had anybody in the 20 years I've been doing this come through the door and ask me for a yoga class. I've always had everybody limp through the door saying, this bit hurts. Somebody said you could help me. And that was how I got into remedial work. But I found that the movement was nothing without the manual therapy, and the manual therapy was nothing without the movement. We have to have both. Particularly for those of us that are post-surgery or post-injury, we have to work with the scar tissue intelligently, and sometimes the hands-on approach and touch for connective tissue is amazing. You know, we are touch-based beings, which is why we were so affected by the lockdowns, because we are designed to interact with each other and touch each other and hug each other, and, you know, on many, many different levels. we are a pack animal essentially, and we need each other. So it was, you know, how do we bring that together? And that's where the gravity technique sort of essentially comes from.
So how does somebody get in touch to work with you? Because this is it's not a new way of thinking. It's almost an old way of thinking, because, you know, modern medicine is great. Painkillers are great. But what did we do back in the dark ages? So how can somebody contact you to start working with you, to start dealing and owning their chronic pain?
So yeah, gravity technique. Gravitytechnique.com, it's everywhere. I work one-to-one predominantly, but I also run sessions online each week. So we have a small group sessions where we're not taught interoception. If I had my way, it would be in the curriculum. We've been taught this at school. We are taught all about our external world. We're taught to crack the books, monitor our environments, and feed back to ourselves about the external world, all about it, all around us. But we are not taught to touch in with ourselves. Your body is talking to you all the time. We just don't know the language. We don't know how to interpret the messages, and then we don't know how to respond appropriately. So the one-to-one sessions that we do get into your specific situation. Your body is as unique to you as your fingerprint. So this old way of cookie cutter approaches to exercises, or, you know, this one size fits all, it doesn't. So working with the unique individual with your unique set of circumstances, nobody's got a history like you. Nobody's got a genetic history like you. No one's got an ancestral history like you. So you are you. So there is that, and then to support that movement journey, there's sessions each week. So if you wanted to come in for a free class, there's I think it's gravitytechnique.com/free class, or just go to the gravitytechnique.com website. You can come in and have a 30-minute discovery call with me. I'm always interested to talk through with people what's been going on for them. A large part of what we do here is not just to do with movement and getting you out of pain. It's also to help people feel seen, heard, and understood. Because for a lot of us, particularly when we've been through the mill, we've sat in the room with consultants. I now sit in the room with consultants, and I'm like, right, come on then. But for a lot of people, it's a lot of jargon. I read letters for people all the time. People take a photo on them and they WhatsApp them to me and say, here's what the consultant said about my back. Can you read this? And I'm like, yes, I can. But the problem that we have is that when we're getting all this information from consultants and high-level medical professionals, we don't really know what that means. And then we feel disempowered because we're not able to make an informed decision. Sometimes surgery is the right way. If something if there's a joint in the body that's degenerated to such a point that it does need to be replaced. Somebody said to me the other week, does that mean, nobody ever has surgery again? Absolutely not. But can we approach our surgery intelligently? Can we use it as the window of opportunity that it is? It is not a fix. It's the first step to you being able to do the work to getting your body back to a high efficient functioning.
I love that. We do, yes, absolutely. We've got some comments, and I will try and grab my phone, although I've just thrown it down somewhere. Because we had quite a few comments, but I was like, oh no, power cut. So going backwards, obviously, Jill put the link in the comments. Lisa Varnals has said, no question, but totally agree with trying not to rely on painkillers. I have a severe I really can't speak this morning. It's one of those mornings. Osteoarthritis in both knees, but rarely take tabs as I need them if I'm stressed. Yeah, I need them. I need to know if I'm stressing them. And I think that's really key. As a dancer, one of the things we were always taught was your body's telling you if you're in pain. Feel the pain. You need to feel the pain so you don't push it too far. Have you got anything to say to Lisa whilst I see if I can find any comments that I missed?
Absolutely. Osteoarthritis is a big word right now. It's getting bandied around a lot. I hear a lot of words like bone on bone, particularly when it comes to knees, and I'm a knee and hip specialist. I specialize in gait and walking and that sort of stuff. And, it's one of those disheartening ones where the doctor says, oh, well, it's osteoarthritis, the end. It's like, give me something to work with. So, osteoarthritis is drying within the joint. So the question is why? Why is the joint unable to lubricate itself? And follow that why. It will give you the answers that you're looking for. A lot of the knee and hip and low back issues that I work with are just to do with poorly functioning feet, which is going to come back. Jill's going to be out there going, yes, she's talking about it. Most of us have got immature, in fact, all of us have got immature feet because we put the shoes on at a very, very early age. It makes us walk like thunderbirds. So we've got this lovely, sorry, you have to be a certain age, don't you, to know what a thunderbird is.
I love this.
It gives us these kind of plank-shaped feet, and the load that puts through the knees and the hips, the stress that puts on the low spine walking in that way. You've got 108 articulating facets in your foot, which means it's designed to roll. It is not designed to plop along the floor. And, and we're busy people. So the head is forwards. We're often, pulled by the eyes. We're always trying to get to the school gate or get to the meeting or get to wherever it is that we're trying to get to. So our head is forward. We're taking in lots of information, and that has an effect all the way down the body. So your feet want to be as flexible, as dexterous and as strong as your hands. And if you're looking down at your feet thinking, that's not me, that's okay, because we will just, the ethos behind gravity technique is start where you are, do what you can, use what you have. And when it comes to accessible movement, we just have to start where we are. So everything that we do here, you can do in bed, you can do sitting down. You don't have to. I had an issue with a video that somebody sent me, and they said, this is for back pain. And the video for back pain started with just coming to your hands and knees on the floor. And I know with slip disc, you're not getting on off the floor. It's already off the table. So there is no just. So we try to go upstream and become more accessible, more inclusive for you, regardless of where you are, regardless of your medical history. It's never too late to start. My oldest client is 94. She's doing amazingly. But, she came because she'd had one hip replaced and she didn't want the other hip replaced. And she presented me with these very beautiful court-shaped blocks for feet, because she'd worn court shoes and a skirt all her life. We're conditioned as women, particularly, we're conditioned into walking in a ladylike fashion, sitting in a ladylike fashion, all of which causes hip degeneration. So we got started with her. She didn't have the other hip replaced in the end, and she's doing great. But your body is a self-healing organism, highly intelligent, right up until your final day. So it's never too late. You're not written off. You don't have to throw yourself out for the glue factory just yet. Although we do joke about those things because we work in chronic joint pain, so we have to be slightly humorous. But yes, with regards to osteoarthritis, where is the disproportionate load coming through the knee? What are the feet up to? And what can we do to change how we're load bearing through the knee and get the knee to lubricate itself, and then it's got a chance of repairing.
Brilliant. Now, I really love that, because one of the things that I do when I'm teaching public speaking, so I am anti, I'm going to put it out there, I am anti the power pose. And I'm going to explain why I'm anti the power pose, because your feet, if you haven't got your feet rooted to terra firma, you use gravity. I'm talking about terra firma. It's a Stanislavski conversation. If your feet aren't rooted, so I walk a lot barefooted, deliberately, because I need my feet to work. I'm an ex-dancer. We've been taught about feet. And I remember my voice teacher when I was 17 telling us to take our ballet shoes off, because the ballet shoes altered our gait and altered the way we walked and made us walk around barefooted. So a lot of the time when I'm doing coaching, someone will walk in massive high heels, or they're walking in like trainers, and it affects the way we stand and it affects the way our feet move. And that is actually normally why I don't like the power pose, because if you haven't sorted your feet, you're not rooted and you're going to wobble. And if you're going to wobble, then you're not in a power pose. So that's just my own little funny thing about feet.
Yeah, and and we're habitual. We want an adaptive body. I love a pair of high heels. We want to be able to put ourselves into different terrain. Your foot is feeding back to your brain all the time about the environment underneath you. If the messages cannot get through, or they're not coming back from your foot to your brain, the brain, all it can do is send the message down to the body, brace, brace. So we'll pull up in the quads. Those, we know hip flexors very well. They're the piano wires stuck on the front of your hips. So it will brace at the thigh. It will lift the shoulders up. It will pull the head forwards. All the things that it thinks it needs to stabilize. And interestingly, for our friend Lisa, it also causes you to lock out the knees. If the brain can't feel the heel, it will lock through the knee. And then we end up with a knee that is sitting on itself. And it's not. It's supposed to be a double ball and socket joint. So it's supposed to be revolving and oscillating and all of this stuff. But for a lot of us, we use it as a hinge joint, and the bones are, if we think about joints, we want the bone ends to be like we are with our friend in the cafe. We want a table between us, a space between us. We do not want to be kissing unless he's good looking, but we do not want to be kissing our friend. We want a bit of space between us. And it's the same for the joints. They are the creators of space in the body, and they're the facilitators of movement in the body. They are not load-bearing organs, and they're not the power behind it all. So it's really important that we shift that. But in standing, particularly if we're at standing desks, or we're standing on the shop floor, or we're standing for long periods of time, then the knees will lock out at one point, because it's just not possible for us to stand efficiently upwards for that amount of time. And the same with sitting at desks. I work a lot in ergonomics, and I asked my teacher many years ago, what do we do about sitting? And he said, well, would you stand on one leg for 8 hours a day? And I was like, well, no, of course I wouldn't. That's stupid. And he said, but you sit at the desk for 8 hours a day. And yet we expect our central core systems to support us in that way. And then we're surprised when actually the head comes forwards and we start to collapse heavily through the center. But it is the equivalent of asking ourselves to either spend 8 hours with our arm in the air or stand on one foot. So it's starting to be a little bit more intelligent about our environment, but also a little bit more forgiving with ourselves. We have to prioritize ourselves over the work. We have to prioritize ourselves over our children. We have to prioritize ourselves over life in general, because that is how we keep ourselves efficient and moving, and we're useful, and we can't pour from an empty cup. So it's really important. We laugh a lot about self-care. It's not floating around in the bath with some candles on. It's getting the work in. It's setting the alarm in your phone for every 30 or 40 minutes to remind yourself to put your head back in the gravity line. We can do that together if you want. Very quick.
Yeah, go for it. Look, why not?
We've got some people watching who are at their desks this morning. Jill, I see you. I know where you are. She's a bit at her kitchen table somewhere.
I was thinking Lisa's here. She says, "Thank you. I'm too young for knee replacements. Supposedly, I don't hear that often now. So, and she wore high heels for years. So, yeah, let's do this. Let's finish on this note.
Yeah, let's do that. So, stick your thumbs out. So this is for you to do. If you're looking at the computer, your head will get pulled forward to see the information in front of you. It's an old primal lay down in the back part of the brain to take in lots of information, to make a decision as to whether I stay here because it's Kirsty and she's lovely, or whether somebody's coming in, they're going to burn my village to the ground. So the brain switches gear. So when we look at the thumbs, just like we look at the computer screen, the head will go forwards. So if we turn the thumbs into fuzzy focus, so we look past the thumbs, we make them nice and fuzzy, and then all we're going to do is going to walk our thumbs out to the sides of us, and you've got 90 degrees range on each side, but you don't lose your thumbs out of your peripheral vision. Now, this is going to get challenging at some point, and we're going to have to muddle around with the head, that's a technical term, mess around with your head, mess around with your shoulders in an attempt to get yourself to that 90-degree range. So your thumb is in line with your elbow and is in line with your shoulder. And this is something that you can get into later on, but you can do this every 30 to 40 minutes at your desk. It puts your head back in the gravity line. But what's really important is that when your head is back at the top of the spine and your vision is in fuzzy focus or in your peripheral vision, it puts you into repose mode. So this will actively drop your cortisol and adrenaline levels.
Well, and I could feel the difference there. I mean, obviously I exercise a lot, but although my bingo wings, I think, were showing quite nicely there. But yeah, I do. I was like, oh, I don't think I like that bit. But that's the joys of being in my 50s. But yeah, no, I could feel the difference in my spine. I genuinely could feel the difference there. That was absolutely fabulous. Normally I ask people to ask me a question, but I'm not going to, because I think that's a really lovely note to finish on. Thank you so much for holding the space whilst I went off on a power cut and then had to log back in. That's the first time that's happened. You have been incredible. This is full of fantastic information. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thanks, Kirsty.